Welcome to a new video with the electric trucker. Behind me is my Mercedes e-Actros 600 and I'm not at a regular charging park because I'm in the middle of Turkey. As you know from the last video, I drove all the way from Germany to Aksaray, right in the middle of the country. Earlier today I was unloaded and then loaded again, and now I'm charging the truck. The trailer is already sealed with the customs rope and plumb, so nobody can open it anymore. And here at the factory are 2 Siemens chargers and 2 ABB chargers. I was down at around 18%, and now I can leave Aksaray with a full battery. I am on a bit of a time crunch though, since I have to pick up another tour afterwards. I'm still waiting for my customs papers, so for now I'll move over to the logistics company's depot, and hopefully early tomorrow morning I'll get the paperwork and can roll out. The return trip can begin. I've got all my papers now. It did take quite a while again, but I expected it, so it wasn't too bad. I'm still in Aksaray and it's 3:30 in the afternoon, which means my daily rhythm is a bit messed up, but I'm in a hurry, so I'll just hit the road. This time I'm a lot lighter, so the drive should be easier overall. Right now it's 40 degrees, which is extreme for people and for the truck. I'm heading through Aksaray and then back north. Earlier I was at the depot and talked with the customs officer. It's tricky because we don't speak the same language, which is where AI helpers shine. Instead of fumbling with Google Translate, I just used Google Gemini and told it, "Be my translator, translate German to Turkish and Turkish to German." And then we talked into it. It translates perfectly, makes communication ridiculously easy. You do need internet, of course, but otherwise it works really well. On the way back, there aren't many different routes I can take. I'll definitely head to Bolu again, because that's where the huge charging park was from the last video, but I can't quite make it there within 4.5 hours of driving. That means I need to stop earlier. And of course, if you stop, you should combine it with charging. That's exactly what I'm doing now. On the way, I spotted a charging station, and along this expressway, I found 4 ZES chargers. In the app, it said 180 kilowatts, but look what's written on the ground. 400 kilowatts. Turns out they only give 180 kilowatts right now, but you can guess they are upgrading soon. Quite the view driving through Turkey. I also wanted to quickly explain how logistics generally work at Daimler Trucks. They don't move everything back and forth just by truck. What I'm doing here is more of a special run. The standard setup works like this. Goods need to go both ways, to Turkey and back to Germany, because there are suppliers in Western Europe, but also in the East, including Turkey. The regular transport is already intermodal. In Germany, the cargo gets loaded onto a trailer, then hauled by truck to Italy or Greece, and goes via ship to Turkey, and from there, a local carrier picks it up and delivers it to Aksaray. Sometimes the route even goes by train to Italy. So it's really a smart chain of truck, rail, and ship, and it usually takes about 7 days. But sometimes things are urgent. In those cases, they use the overland route I just drove. Since the intermodal option takes only 7 days, the only truck options that still exists are express options. Express is 5 days, when it's more urgent, and with driver swaps along the way. And Super Express is 4 days with 2 drivers in 1 truck. I managed the route in just under 6 days, despite all the hurdles. With a bit of optimization, between 5 to 6 days would be realistic for me too. So they do run these trips with trucks, but of course not all the material that's needed. That would be crazy if everything had to move by road only. I'm back in Bolu at that massive charging park you already know from the last video. I'm charging the truck at one of the 400 kilowatt stations. The battery wasn't even at 50%, but after just 45 minutes, it's nearly full again. There are more 400 kilowatt stations all around. It's really crazy how many chargers they've built here, and you can access it from both sides of the highway. This time I arrived in the evening, so the mall was fully open. Last time I came in the morning and half the shops were still closed. So I grabbed 2 chee kofta wraps to go, perfect for eating on the road. That way I'm set for the next stretch. I won't be driving the full 10 hours today, probably more like 9, and then I'll see where I end up. But the plan is to head back to Istanbul. I expected to see all kinds of different vehicles here in Turkey, but finding a snowplow in the middle of the desert, I really didn't see that coming. Please let me know in the comments if you know what it is doing here. I just hit another HGS toll station, but this time the barrier didn't open automatically. Instead, the display showed 970 lira. I looked left, and sure enough, there was a guy in a booth asking me for money. Tolls here are deducted automatically through the HGS sticker on the windshield. It has a chip that identifies the vehicle, and I had already loaded enough credit for the whole trip to Aksaray and back. But he explained that the HGS system was apparently offline, so they were charging manually. Made sense at first, until I noticed other vehicles just driving through. Turns out the outage mainly affects foreign vehicles without Turkish plates. Felt a bit odd, but in the end, it was less than 20 euros. I got a proper receipt, so I figured it can't be too shady. I was planning to spend the night here since there's a charging station. But yeah, it's pretty packed. I managed to find a spot up front, drove back past the security guys in their little booth, waved, said electric, and they just let me through. Now I'm parked at this charging area. Same setup as the last one I stopped at. Different operators under one roof, identical layout. Lesson of the day. Experience is everything. Earlier there was a free space where you'd have to back the truck in sideways. That used to be my nightmare with a semi on a tight road. Now, I know how to do it with no stress. Same with the charger layout. Once you've seen it, you know how to handle it. Raise the air suspension, drive all the way forward, plug in, done. That's my message to other truckers trying out electric. It gets easier with time. Every challenge you face becomes second nature the next time. Today I covered 700 kilometers, and I didn't even need the full 9 hours of driving. Only 8 hours 45. I saved my 10-hour driving time for when it counts. This stop came right at the end of my drive. Perfect timing. Now I'll chat with the guy who is checking out the truck, explain a bit, and then it's time to sleep. Tomorrow morning, the journey continues. Good night. Today I already started driving at 11. We're slowly getting back to a normal daily rhythm. I just went through another toll station, and once again I had to pay. At this point, I see 3 possible reasons. Either the system is actually down, which would explain the long lines, but I doubt it since other vehicles pass through without problems. Or the HGS guy who sold me the sticker loaded too little credit onto it. Or worst case, he charged me the full amount, but only credited part of it. Whatever the reason, I can't change it now. What I do know is that if you reach the border with unpaid HGS tolls, you won't get out until you've settled them. That's why I'll make sure to always take a lane with either a booth attendant or a card terminal, so that at the last toll before the border I can pay everything that's still open. Then I should be safe and can leave Turkey without any problems. Next stop is the border. Now this guy told me again that it's a technical problem and that's why I had to pay. Once I have a quiet moment at home, I'll check if I can use the code printed on the receipt to see my current balance or maybe even get a refund. It's not really a big deal, just a bit annoying because I had set it up so the balance would exactly cover my trip through Turkey. I can't use any leftover credit, while other truck drivers can just spend it the following week. Now I'm just before the border crossing and the trucks are being guided out again. I handed him the papers and had to give my phone number. Now I'll get an SMS when I'm allowed to cross the border. It's a scheduled system similar to the other side, which is already very good. He told me that it would take 12 hours. That means I could at least take a daily rest, so I'll just park and wait. But 12 hours would be 2:30 in the morning. It's now Friday morning, just before 3:30, and I'm still in Turkey. To quickly summarize what happened yesterday, I drove in, had to wait another 2 hours at a different parking lot, and then I got an SMS telling me to go to this GTI parking area. which apparently belongs to the customs or border authorities in Turkey. I ended up stuck there for 10.5 hours. Now I got the SMS that I can finally head over to the border. 10.5 hours sounds long, but it's actually not so bad, because that's basically an 11-hour rest, so I'll have fresh driving hours in just a few minutes. I'm just glad the SMS came through at all. Now I'm going to line up and make my way toward the border. My worst nightmare just happened. There's a huge line and I asked some other truckers if it's the right spot. But it turns out all of them are just here to refuel because fuel is really cheap here. I didn't even see the lanes on the far left and right. Standing in line when you don't even need to be is the worst. People are literally standing here for hours just to save a bit on fuel. I really don't get how this works. Now there's this entire armada of trucks lined up all coming out of the gas station. And I don't understand why they're standing here. Why don't they just keep going? There's nobody here organizing or coordinating anything. You can kill some of the waiting time by reading, but of course my shift hours are ticking away, so today definitely won't be very productive. But I'm already done with the Turkish side. I've got the stamp in my passport, they've stamped the papers too, and now I think we're just waiting to get to the Bulgarian border. Since it's the EU's external border, it might be a bit stricter. And that truck up there, with the dark blue doors, is the same one I arrived at the border with yesterday. 18 hours later, we meet again. Now I'm at the Bulgarian border, and they've got these measuring devices with long antennas that they stick under the trailer tarp. Since they can't just open the tarp, they're checking it that way. I don't think it's a camera, it looks more like they're actually measuring something. I think the real customs check is still coming, but they've already searched everything. I had to open the storage compartments and the officer even spotted Ladolix. The Turkish side didn't notice him. As for the device, they're using it to check for people hiding inside, to make sure no one is being smuggled into the EU. Makes sense. They definitely have to keep an eye on that nowadays. The customs officer wasn't exactly in the best mood. She got really annoyed that I don't speak Bulgarian and decided that I should go through a full inspection. At this point, I've already been here for 20 hours, and there is some guy here with a list. He's not even customs himself, but he's the one coordinating who gets called up next. The crazy thing is that they're scanning almost every truck. There's already a huge line behind me, and only a tiny number get waved through. I've been stuck half an hour waiting on that one truck that isn't moving. No wonder this takes so long when they create a real bottleneck like that. I can't believe it. I made it through. The border crossing from Turkey into Bulgaria took 22 hours and 13 minutes. Right after the border was a building where I got the Bulgarian toll pass, since the website is still unusable and keeps throwing errors. Honestly, that's pretty embarrassing. Anyway, I'm heading towards Finalizing now, where I've already been, because I want to test that 480 kilowatt charger again. The customs officer at the end was really friendly. He was super curious about where the batteries are, wanted to sit inside, and asked how new the truck is. And to be fair, these people on the ground are just doing their jobs. They're the last ones to blame for that insane traffic jam. My guess is that it's at least partly political, that the EU doesn't want the Turkish or other non-EU borders to be too open, so they intentionally keep things slow to prioritize internal trade. I can't say for sure, but it feels like that. Still, the truckers I met were all great. Always helpful, always answering questions, and super curious about the electric truck. Major respect to everyone who has to fight their way through this crossing day after day. If you see a Turkish truck on the road, just remember, that driver has already been through hell here and deserves respect for making it. I can't drive much more today since I spent most of the time just waiting around, but I'll top up a few kilowatt hours at the charger and then head back the same way I came. There aren't many options for crossing the Danube anyway, apart from a few ferries, so sticking to the route I already know is the best strategy. I'm back in Svilengrad at that charger near the casino. In the last video, you saw it wasn't configured properly, so I couldn't charge. It has 480 kilowatts with 4 outlets, which is really cool for a parking setup. Cars can park all around, and from a footprint perspective, it's smart too. The cable management is nice and the interface is super snappy. The charger is delivering full power, 396 kilowatts. Overall, it makes a great impression. The previous outage isn't the charger's fault, and Finesse did a good job here. There aren't that many ultra-fast chargers around, but the few that exist are actually well placed. The security guard from the casino came by, wondering why a truck was parked there. Once he saw it was an electric truck, he was like, "Ah, cool, everything's fine," and confirmed that it's definitely okay to park for charging. Of course, it's not really a proper truck parking spot, but so far every place I've charged at has had security. You can see that as a pro or con, but it definitely gives a good sense of safety abroad, which isn't bad at all. I took a quick look at the Finesse charging app, and one small detail stood out. You can see the exact hardware of each chargers with a picture. I think that's a really cool touch because it helps you find the right charger, know what charging power to expect, and ensures you're plugging into the correct station. And over the last year, things have developed a lot. Certain hardware manufacturers are now much more reliable, and being able to see exactly what's available on site is a great feature. And speaking of apps, I finally downloaded the Mercedes app. In the apps section, there's the Remote Truck 3.0 app. When you open it, a QR code appears, which you scan to sync your phone with the truck. It's actually pretty simple. You can't interact much with the system, but you can access a lot of data. You can see if the truck is locked or unlocked, check if doors or windows are open. You can view the odometer, remaining range, battery level, and even the tire pressure. And tire temperature, just like on a race car. Some buttons aren't functional yet, but they're already visible. You can't remotely control the climate, but observing the charging process from afar is really handy. What I really like is the simplicity. You scan the QR code, connect your vehicle, and the connection lasts for 7 days. After that, you scan again. It's straightforward because anyone with access to the truck and the key can see the data for a few days. And since you can't do much else, there's no risk of breaking anything. This setup avoids the usual admin account chaos. Normally, you'd have to create driver accounts, match them to the truck, and they might still have access even if the truck isn't in use. A big headache. With this QR code approach, you just reconnect weekly in a few seconds. Sometimes a simple solution really is the best one, and I think this is a good example. This exhausting day took a good turn because I've reached my target for today. There's a restaurant, sanitary facilities, showers, a truck workshop, and I can park in the back. I'll be fully charged tomorrow morning, and I'm charging right now at around 240 kilowatts. Tomorrow I'll drive as far as I can, and then the week will be over. I'll make the best of it and take an 11-hour rest now, since all my 9-hour rest breaks have already been used. The last day of the week has begun. I started driving at 4 and my main goal today is to get out of Bulgaria and survive this border crossing. I'm curious if early Saturday morning will make it easier and let me get through quickly. After that, we'll see where I end up tonight. The battery is fully charged, conditions are good, and we're driving on Bulgarian country roads in the early morning. Now we're heading back into Romania. The border crossing isn't convenient because of the construction, but I've got a few truck colleagues in front of me. It's still early, not even 6. so it should be faster than last time. It ended up taking 1.5 hours, but I still think it was faster than taking another route and possibly waiting at a ferry, and definitely quicker than on the way to Turkey. Now I'm getting checked here as well. That went pretty quick. They just checked briefly to see if I was smuggling anyone. They looked up top and around the trailer, but they didn't check inside the trailer since it's sealed. Today there seems to be less traffic, even on the other side, because on the way there we were stuck all the way past the city. Okay. I take that back. Today it's just as busy on that side. It was just a small gap earlier. Back then, I didn't even know why we were stuck in that jam, which makes it even more confusing. This is wild. The bridge is such a bottleneck. Last time it took me 5 hours, and the line was about half as long, so these drivers are definitely looking at least 7 hours of waiting. Anyway, I've already booked the toll for Romania, just a day pass, costs 11 euros, and the website actually works. You just enter your details, pay, and get the confirmation by email. It can be that simple. The Romanian country roads are adventurous, but the Eactros handles it really well. It's really powerful, so you can climb hills without issues. Some of the hairpins are tight, and you have to watch out for oncoming trucks, but otherwise with full regen and one-pedal driving it drives very confidently. You just have to be careful because there are dogs or people on the road, or someone might overtake you at 100 kilometers per hour. It's wild and a bit dangerous, but honestly, it's fun. I think with a diesel, climbing these hills would be a struggle with the brakes heating up and all that. And of course, the scenery is amazing. I'm back on the highway, and here is the huge charging park I showed in the first video. I wanted to show you that it's mirrored on the other side too. Up front, we've got 4 300 kilowatt chargers for cars, and then there are 9 more chargers for trucks. A bit crowded during holiday season, but that isn't a problem, there's plenty of space. I don't need to charge right now, so I'm going a bit further. I took a rest break without charging today because driving on the Bulgarian and Romanian country roads was really efficient. I've driven 512 kilometers today, and the battery still has 28% left. If I drive as far as I can today, I'll end up at that OMV station where I charged before. But the electricity there is pretty expensive, so I'm driving to a different rest stop, roughly an hour away. There, it only costs 2.5 RON per kilowatt hour instead of 3. For a full charge, that saves around 60 euros, so it definitely makes sense to go there. I also discovered this truck charging station and wanted to charge there, but it didn't work. It's not operational yet. No stickers, no power, probably just freshly installed. It's also not in any apps. So I went over to these car chargers instead, which should have worked. I checked the nameplate. It says 920 volts at 150 kilowatts, but it wouldn't charge. It kept stopping after about half a minute, no matter what I tried. I double-checked the nameplate, reduced the charging power to eco mode, set a future departure time so it would lower the power to 50 kilowatts, even hit the emergency stop and restarted the system, but nothing worked. I called support to have them restart the station, which they did, but still nothing. I could have gone somewhere else, but I really wanted to know why it wasn't working. I called support again to at least get the reason for the charging stop, since the protocol usually shows a reason for an interruption. Support didn't really explain and just restarted it again, and now it's working. I have no clue why, but I'm not touching anything now. It's charging at 121 kilowatts, and I'm leaving it alone. And that's it for this week. I learned a lot and experienced a ton, and basically, there's a solution for everything. I'll see you next week. Sending greetings from Romania.